Hi, I'm Jill Vitale, awesome with the Eden Alternative. Thanks for joining us today for our Eden Alternative live show. I am really happy to have Myron Kowal with us today. Myron is the founder and CEO of RCare, and Myron and RCare have been very, very long time partners with supporters of the Eden Alternative. And we're going to talk today about in this time that we're living in of the pandemic and COVID, really how much call systems have really become a lifeline. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about how do we maximize call systems. And Myron, you actually helped me to start thinking about these systems a little bit differently. You know, even after I was a nursing home administrator for a lot of years and used call systems all this time. And you said a few things to me when we were planning for the show that completely shifted my thinking. And so I'm hoping, you know, with all of your experience with working with all these organizations, that this will help other people to think about things a little bit differently too. So thank you for being with us today. And thank you to you and RCare for always supporting our work. We really appreciate you.
Oh, absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you. Always philosophically aligned with the Eden Alternative. So big supporter, proponent, rah for you guys. I really think it's the right way to go. So I'm happy about it. Thanks for letting me be here.
Oh, of course. And, you know, before we get started, so, you know, the Eden Alternative, we always like people to be well known. And I was asking you before we started, is there anything else about your history, your background that we should share? And you said something that completely surprised me, and it helped me to know you a little bit differently. What was that?
I've been a ballet dancer, a cabaret performer. I'm an inventor. I have a couple of patents to my name. So I don't know.
And you're a big fisherman, right?
I do love to fish. Absolutely. I love to fish.
I know. I knew that about you. So for folks who are out there joining us, pop in with comments and questions. Let us know you're here watching. Okay. So when we talked about doing this show, you were sharing with us some of the ways, what you've all been up to since the pandemic hit. And I want to share, we'll share the link to this video with people who are watching. And so it's available later too. But you all have been playing a really important role in this pandemic. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So in late February, as the pandemic was percolating, if you will, I began to think about how our call systems might be able to help. Back about 10 years ago, there was a real bad flu outbreak, and we created rapid deployment kits for an emergency room locally that could deploy emergency call systems for the overflow very quickly. And I said, we've got to do this for COVID. So when I got back into the office, we started to get the optimal configurations in terms of outfitting a field installation, and we put the kits together so that we could install them in less than 5 minutes and deploy 40 beds in that amount of time, and make it technically simple enough so that everybody could operate it. So that's what we did. We put that out there, and the Army Corps of Engineers and Johnson Controls all picked up on it very quickly and asked us to quickly design the systems. The difficulty they had with conventional nurse call systems was that they required lots and lots of wire and lots of network infrastructure, and they're built for an institutional kind of setting. Like all the stuff behind me here, it's like, you know, you've got to have a wall to stick it on. And when you're outfitting an auditorium or a gymnasium or a hockey rink,
or a parking garage, right?
Or a parking garage.
Parking garages, yeah.
Yeah, so we did in Long Island at Stony Brook. We did the athletic fields for 11,000. Well, that was 1,100 patient beds there. We did the TPC Center or TFC Center in Detroit. We also did the Boston General, or Mass General, Worcester Convention Center. So we did 4, 5, or 6 of these things in a very short period of time. So we're able to mobilize and get it done. It was fun.
Thank you for playing this important role. And I mean, to be able to do something like that to help our country it's got to just feel so amazing.
Well, that's what it was. It felt amazing. So everybody who was working here, I mean, even during the pandemic, we all had our PPE on and slathering ourselves with disinfectant and whatever else we needed to do. But we were putting in long hours sending systems. We actually got rid of our entire inventory in a month by sending it all out. And fortunately, we were able to recover pretty quickly and back in business. But we met all of our requirements out there in the field. It was never had such a sense of purpose and contributing. It was great.
Absolutely. Well, gosh, that's amazing. So I have a question. So that takes creativity, right? To think that way. So I'm just curious, you read a lot about things and hear about things that what they do outside of their job can impact the way they do their job. And so do you think, and I know this wasn't a question we said we were going to talk about, but I'm really curious, do you think some of your creative pastimes help you to be able to think differently in your job?
Yeah, I do. I think that, thinking outside the box, I get uncomfortable in the box. So, I'm going to walk around the box. I'm going to kick the box. And, wow, the box is now a cube. Okay, what can we do with this? Let's turn it on its end. So I think perspective has a lot to do with how we work and manage things. And like in Eden, I mean, when you take a look at things from perspective of the elders and what they need in terms of a nurse call system, that's how I look at it. I really look at it from their point of view.
Well, and that's one of the things when we were talking about this, you said, I don't want to just talk about our system. And you said, I want to talk about answer the call and why that matters. So talk a little bit about that, if you would.
So answer the call was kind of my rallying call for 2020. This is what we were going to lead into to all the trade shows.
Before all of this.
Before all of this, it was answer the call. We provide metrics for our call systems. You can see who's calling and who are the frequent flyers, which caregivers are answering the call, how much time it's taken to do that. But if no one's looking at those reports and no one's trying to get to those calls and so on, then, am I just whistling Dixie?
Yeah.
And only just providing that information for, the few who are trying hard. I mean, for them, it's a good thing. It occurred to me. I'll tell you where the perspective came from. We have a national dashboard. So all of our systems are connected to our remote support server, and we're able to glean data and information. And on a daily basis, I have a dashboard that shows me national response times. And it boggles my mind that people could let a call, on average, languish for more than 7-8 minutes. I would see national average response times vary between 7 and 11 minutes on a daily basis. And that was too long. It's just too long.
Yeah. And you said something that I hadn't thought about before. Well, you said a lot of things that I hadn't thought about before. And you said that this is self-advocacy. And it's that when that beeping noise or whatever your alert is, it's not this annoying thing telling you. It's the voice of an elder saying, I
Exactly.
need you,
It,
right?
it, it may be the only voice that they have, and it's loud and clear. And if we ignore it, it's just like not listening to them in person.
Yeah.
If they're, if they need assistance in toileting and they've pulled that pull cord, it's not like they've got all day and nothing else to do. They need help, and we're supposed to give it to them in a timely. And that's, I measure care and responsiveness. That's my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So if how we respond to our elders can be measured, one of those measures is time. How quickly do we get there? In small homes, it's not a big deal so much because we're the proximity and we're taken care of. Even in smaller communities and so on, when you act it, but as soon as it reaches that institutional level, all of a sudden things stretch out. And there's the thing that I said to you in our last talk was, a lot of people say, well, it's everybody's responsibility to answer a call.
And I used to say that, and
Yeah.
I thought that was such a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's everybody's job to answer call lights. It's my job. It doesn't matter what your position is. And that's how I did things. So, what did you say to me?
So well, if it's everybody's responsibility to answer the call, then who's accountable? If everyone's responsible, then no one's accountable.
That makes so much sense.
And accountability is probably the only thing that we've got against human nature, is that we can verify.
Mm-hmm.
So, if it's your responsibility to take care of this person and you can't, then you should have a way to look for assistance and get these things done, but not ignore that person. So when we talk about call escalations or staff to staff communication capabilities, all those things are hugely important.
Well, and I think you would agree that in the vast majority of situations, there are always some bad apples, but that it's not that people don't want to help the elders. It's usually a systems problem, right? Or a culture problem. It's not that this person's a bad person that they're not answering the call light.
Right.
So what are some things that you have seen? And that's one of them, right? If it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job. And it's like, well, somebody else is helping Myron. I don't need to worry about it. That makes a lot of sense. What else? And smaller, right? When you have a smaller area and you're caring for people that are within easy distance, but what other kinds of things can help?
So,
and how can your system help too?
So setting up your call system so that it does emulates the processes that you want to perform. So, call escalations is one thing. So everyone says, well, if someone doesn't call in 1 minute, I want it to escalate. Then I want it to escalate again. So if you've got calls that are escalating every 1 minute, but on average you're not answering your calls in 7 minutes, it's going to escalate 6 times. So instead of having one call to one caregiver, you've got 6 calls going out to 60 caregivers, all of which think someone else is going to get it.
Yeah.
So call escalations are a stopgap or kind of a fail-safe situation so you don't drop the call, but it's not a good management tool. So, well, let's put it at that. So that's one thing. Manage your escalations properly. I think
so it should go to, if I am the care partner that's supposed to be caring for someone and I don't answer the call, then it should go to one other person instead of the whole group.
Right.
And if
or that if that person is your partner or someone who handles the calls on the other side of the room, so you guys are communicating pretty regularly on those things, then that's the right way of doing things.
That makes sense. And then the way you talk about it, like, I really wish that I had heard you say what you said to me when I was an administrator, that you would never, if say you were walking down the hall, or you would hope that this wouldn't happen, and an elder said, "Hey, can you help me?" You would never just walk by and ignore the person. So making that connection that, yes, it's technology, but this is the voice of one of the elders that live in this community.
The call bell is the voice of the elder.
Yeah.
That's it.
That makes a lot of sense. So, and then your system, I'm thinking back to all the things I wished I'd had. Your system also has so that somebody says, "I got this one," right?
Yes.
When the call comes in, and can also record what I went in to assist a person with.
Sure. So let me walk you through the standard call. And this is kind of using our systems. Our systems can scale everything from a very simple pull cord, dome light, ding, ding, ding at the nurse's station. And that's all that's required in a UL 1069 system. Pull cord.
What?
A UL 1069 system. That's a regulatory standard that's accepted across the country.
Okay. Thank you.
So we as nurse call manufacturers and operators need to have that as the minimum standard. So they have to do that. Beyond that, though, it doesn't really talk about much more communications than that. So if you pull the pull cord, light the light, and it dings the ding, if no one's there to hear the ding or see the light, it didn't really happen. So what we devised was, way in the back, everybody got pagers. Yes. I go, wow, pagers are great, right? Everybody gets pager. And the pager goes off when a call goes off to 10 people? Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to get it. Pager is tantamount to hollering down the hall and saying, "Somebody get that. You dial 911. Someone do it. Somebody else is going to do it." As opposed to, "This is my responsibility. I'll take care of it. If I can't, then I have a way to ask for help." So we introduced a smart communication device. It was a smartphone. We were the first people to introduce the smartphone into the elder care industry. And it's patent pending still on that. But the idea was that a person, I always say pull a pull cord because that's something that everybody can relate to. So they pull a pull cord, it lights the light, dings the ding, and calls a caregiver who is assigned to that particular person on the phone. So they hit on it may go to 3 or 4 that are assigned, and one person hits the "I got it" button. The "I got it" button lets the other people know, Jill has got that call. And Jill goes to the room. She scans in using what we call NFC, or near field technology, near field communications. NFC is the same thing as Google Pay and Samsung Pay. You touch your phone to it and you've just paid for things.
So that's how it cancels the call light.
So it cancels the escalation.
Okay.
So that when you go, you hit the "I got it" button, you scan in, it now knows that you're in the room, the clock is ticking. You take care of the resident, you take care of the elder, you do what you have to do, you make a notation on that phone, an ADL possibly. We have an option for ADLs. You say, "I assisted in oral care," and you did that. And then you scan out. So now I know who placed the call, which caregivers were notified, which one accepted the call, how quickly it took them to get to the room, what they did when they were in the room, and how much time it took them to do it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And I can especially see that how long you're in the room in care settings where people, like in assisted living, right? Where people, you're not billed the full amount if you don't need a lot of assistance, but you need to be able to look at, do we need to increase this person's level of care?
Right.
So that I can then add more staffing because this person needs more assistance to meet their needs. So is that how some organizations use that? I'm guessing they do.
They do. So some of them who are providing a la carte services and are charging for those kinds of things are using that to reconcile their accounts that way.
That makes sense.
But what we did recently is, because of COVID and contact tracing, that scanning in of the room places a caregiver in a resident room at a time and for how long. So, not only did they get exposed to that person, or was the elder exposed to the caregiver in that room, but for the amount of time and what was the frequency. So you can run reports that'll tell you.
So with a lot of this testing going on, like the universal testing where you go through and test everybody, if you have an elder that tests positive or a team member, you can very quickly know, oh, here are all the other people that are potentially exposed. That is so important right now. I can't even imagine how important that is.
And it's kind of an offshoot of the system that we originally designed. So it's just a software upgrade to what you have, and a free software upgrade.
So I remember when I first started and I don't want to underestimate this contact tracing, because that is absolutely critical. And the other thing that came up when you were talking about this is, I remember when I first started as a nursing home administrator, and this is before, before you get into the institutional thinking, because I didn't start out in an Eden alternative community. And I remember somebody who was pushing their call light all the time. And I remember the team member saying, oh, she doesn't really need anything. She's just lonely. She's always on the call button. That's like a phrase they would use, right? Like, and I remember thinking, well, why isn't the fact that she needs somebody to talk to as important as I need to go to the bathroom? And I'm curious if are there organizations that you work with that is that one of the things you can put down? Like, could I set it up in my community that this person just wants to talk, just needs to be with somebody, so that you can start to identify people who might need more support?
Absolutely. So when you take a look at those reporting at the dashboard of reporting, gives you a glimpse in the day of the entire operation, so that you can see make some comparisons and some judgments. If someone is on their call bell all the time, if it's coming from the bathroom, maybe they've got a UTI. If it's coming from the bedroom and they don't want to get out of bed, they're depressed, and maybe need to get out of bed and get some sunlight and those kinds of things. So yeah, there's interpretation. I don't know that. I mean, I'm providing the data, and I'm giving it to caregivers to say, look, maybe mom or dad needs something different because they're communicating with you. This is their way of communicating with you. It's all you gave them. Just push this button when you need us. That's the last thing they said, and then they walked out the room. Yeah. And and it's like, so they start pushing, and they're needy.
Right. And also, and I think you had made this point, is if somebody stops doing that. Right? If suddenly somebody's not asking for help all the time, then that should be a sign too that a person needs more support. And I feel like there's so many more ways that we can use these systems.
So we're working with a company right now called Next Gen Care, in a trial basis, and I don't know that I can disclose exactly where we're doing it. But the whole premise behind this is isolation reduction, so that you can now in the day-to-day events of everything that everyone's doing, without adding weird technology. And I'm against sensorizing people and a whole lot of stuff. I mean, you start throwing all kinds of junk, and you can find out exactly what everybody's doing all the time. But the convenience and the difficulty of managing all that stuff, kind of far exceeds what you're supposed to be doing in the first place. But With the company that we're working with now with NextGen, the technology is unobtrusive. It's in the background, and they're measuring the amount of time that people are interacting with each other by their proximity with each other, and they can detect. They've also turned that over for a COVID arrangement as well, to say whether or not you've been socially distancing. But now that's the kind of opposite what they were trying to accomplish in the first time. So I want to make sure that everyone in the facility is interacting, is socializing, is not isolating, and so on. And they created that technology. So RCare can't be everything to everybody.
Right.
But we can integrate to pretty much anything to make sure that that stuff is being communicated to the caregiver. So if they want to do those kinds of things, so wander detection systems, wander prevention systems, we have our own geoperimetering type of systems. These aren't active alerts that people are pulling and doing, but they're still advocating for that individual from a technological point of view.
So the geofencing, that is an opportunity because, as you know, one of the things that we are very much in support of and working to help organizations do, and during the pandemic, it's probably going to lose some steam because we need to segregate people, unfortunately, right now, at least for infection control, but to promote inclusivity for individuals living with dementia. And so that geofencing, is that where if somebody's living with dementia, they don't necessarily have to be locked in a neighborhood.
Exactly.
But then if there is a risk and you've set, does it work outside and inside, or is it just
Yeah, so that's the idea. So you can have go and no go zones. So I'm Jill. I've got a button that I use I press when I need help. That button is also telling me whether you're in a safe area. So the other thing it's not doing is we're not monitoring your activities. We're not looking to see who you're with or what you're doing or all those kinds of things. We just want to know that you're in a safe area and you can do the things that you need. If you go outside that safe area, then an alert happens and it comes through our system.
Okay. That is very cool, and that's just such an important way that technology can support a full life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just locking these doors and keeping everyone in a small area, which unfortunately happens so often.
Dr. Powers, have had some discussion with him about the use of drugs and all those kinds of things. It's like I'm not a clinician, I'm not a doctor, but common sense says that getting dementia is not one of those things that you flip a switch on. It's not like some days you're feeling great and some days just not feeling all that good. And right. It may be the case that we're helping people on the days that they're not feeling all that good.
Right.
And that's really what we need to do.
And I think what Dr. Power would definitely say, and I think I've heard him say this, is if suddenly the room you're in, somebody came and locked it, all you're going to do is try to get out.
Yeah.
And that's true. If somebody came and locked the room I was in, I would be banging on the door wanting to get out, and that's human nature. So the more
social, yeah. And then socialization and isolation. What we don't want to do is to stigmatize those people either.
Right.
So if we make a system that works for everybody and it doesn't distinguish between who's doing what or where, you got one of those tags on. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. And Lisa Kendall has a question. How are the elders themselves involved with decisions about whether and how information systems are used? There's so much potential for great good, but also some privacy issues.
So I personally am the hugest proponent of privacy. I don't like the idea. That's why when I say, let's censorize everybody and we'll know exactly what they're doing all the time and who we're talking to and all those kinds of things. So the data that we have is protected, of course, and for the use. Now, the comings and goings of a person is the responsibility of the facility or the organization that's taking care of them. They can only share that information with the resident or the elder and their families, but it doesn't provide, or it doesn't have HIPAA. Well, I'm not a HIPAA lawyer either. I can't figure that out. But the information that is particularly private.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's what we, the organizations that we work with, is when you're making decisions about technology, when you're making decisions about whatever you're doing, that the voice of the elder should be involved in that. Mm-hmm. And when I think back of choosing call systems, at one point years ago, I had nursing assistants involved with choosing it, but including more people in deciding, I think would help with buy-in, I'm guessing, right? Mm-hmm. Family members, team members, yes, it takes a lot longer, but then you have an easier integration and people are trusted if they're involved with it. Have you seen that happen with organizations where they include elders and team members?
So we have some 1,200 organizations that we've worked with over the years, and it continues to grow, and it varies. We have nonprofits and for-profits. We have facilities that are memory care facilities, all kinds of different kind of substructures of things. So depending on where they are and what they want to do, I would say that there are some of the nonprofits. Probably, I'm going to give a shout out to the Christian care communities in Phoenix, Arizona, and Fellowship Square. I don't think I've ever seen a community that has been so involved with what their residents are doing. They don't make a move without asking or involving them in the conversation. As a matter of fact, when I talk about the call button advocating, being a self-advocation by pressing that button, that term comes from the folks at Fellowship Square. Those are the guys who coined the term, I would guess, self-advocating for in this particular situation. There's another facility in Maine or in New Hampshire. It's in Exeter, Riverwoods. And their council, their elder council, is technologically probably the highest and smartest group of elders I've ever seen. Elders, forget it, just anybody in general population. We've got ex-Lucent engineers and PhDs in physics and all those kinds of things. And they're coming to us with ideas on things that we can do in elder care. So it's been cool.
That's very cool. And Nick has a comment. Nick Garofoli?
Yes.
Is he one of your team members?
Yes, he is.
Oh, good. Because this sounds really cool, and I was hoping it wasn't a competitor like bombing our talk, promoting. So I'm glad this is RCare. Nick says, one trend we've seen and love to be involved in are resident technology councils. They're involved in the process of researching and integrating technology in their community, and they've been very successful in peer training with new tech, like the Alexa integration.
Absolutely, yes.
So, what's this Alexa integration? Oh, I better not say that too loud because I have one of those at my house. What is that? Talk a little bit about that.
We have them back here too. So, if you say to Alexa, if your Alexa is at home, Alexa, it's a copyrighted term. Let's say, Alexa, I've fallen and I'm having difficulty getting up. Alexa won't know what to do with that. I've fallen and I'm hurt. Alexa won't know how to do that. But there is they've developed, and we are a partner with Amazon in this regard. They've developed a hospitality server that you can train to the common phrases that are used in care. So that if you did say you're an independent living, you've got an Alexa here. If you say, I need help, it will create a call on the RCare system that will contact your caregiver and make that connection. So it's doing the advocacy for you.
That is so okay. So what RCare does, you're not just in nursing homes, you are in all different care settings.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the things that in independent living, residential living, is nobody wanted to wear their pendants. Well, a lot of people don't want to wear pendants.
No, they wear them the day after someone falls and gets
right.
And they all got them.
And I don't blame people, right? And then in their apartments, we have pull cords. But what is the likelihood that you're going to fall within reach of your pull cord? And so to have that, or like my mom is almost completely blind. Right. And so to be able to summon help by saying things that are now very common, right? It's getting pretty common that people have one of those devices in their apartment homes. So you can integrate that. I didn't even know that. That's really cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they can integrate it to your lights. They can integrate it to your television set. They should be able to integrate it to your call system.
Yeah.
And so we did that as well, which is very cool. They're telling us soon. So one of the cool things about that is that when you say, hey, Alexa, I need help, and it calls the call system and your caregiver is notified. Once it's notified your caregiver, our system will let Alexa know. It says a caregiver has been notified and is on their way, which when you're on the floor and you need help, or, you're thinking that, holy cow, I think I'm having a heart attack, and that help is on the way, your heart rate just went down just a little bit more to give you that sense that, someone's going to be coming.
Yeah. I that would be, and I remember residents telling me that, like, that's terrifying to not know. Does anybody know I pushed this button, and just that feeling of helplessness. That's amazing. I love that. And I'm so glad that Nick, thanks for bringing that up. That's fabulous. And that in these communities that the residents are teaching other residents how to use it. That's the best, right? Way better than trying to have staff teach everyone is to have residents be part of that process. So Meredith asks if RCare has solutions available for people living at home.
So the simple answer to that is it can be used in home, but we don't market to the home market. There are certainly a lot of companies providing that kind of assistance, Lifeline, Guardian, Life Alert, those things that you see on TV. That level of expertise to take it to the next level. We have been working with communities who are beginning to try and create virtual communities. So the services that they're providing on campus are now expanding outside the campus to, so there used to be a term called NORCs, naturally occurring retirement communities. Wasn't such a cool acronym, so people started using it, but that
is not a very good acronym for a very cool thing.
Yeah, but it's a good concept. And so we've worked with communities to expand their systems into more of their community that they service to do that. So that's kind of where RCare's idea here is that we can create more of a virtual community based on the community that's providing the services in and around.
Okay. So if an organization has developed home and community-based services, they use your system internally, and then they also can use it for the folks that they support that are living at home.
That's right.
I like that. That's very cool. Very cool. So, for anybody who's out there watching, curious if you have any best practices that you'd like to share to improve response times. And again, it's framing it that it's not responding to a beep or any kind of notification. It's responding to an elder saying, I need you. So does anybody have any things that you've done that have helped to improve response time? So we'll give people a minute to weigh in on that. But Myron, one of the things, it just from having run communities for a long time, call systems can be expensive. And so many times, at least in the past, you had to replace everything when you wanted a new system. So if somebody's watching and they're like, oh gosh, if I was watching this right now, I would be like, oh, I wish I had all of the, I can do contact tracing. I can do this, I can do that, but I've got this system and I don't have this huge pot of money. And you don't have to do that anymore, right? You don't have to tear out everything.
No. So we taking a look at this from the provider's perspective. So, and everything's taking a look at things from a different perspective. So we take a look at call systems from the elder's perspective, from the clinical perspective, and the admin perspective about cost. So there's not a lot of capital funds that float around that says, oh, wait, every 10 years we're going to get ourselves a new nurse call system.
Right.
And, asking technology to last 10 years in this day and age is a lot. We're getting a new phone every 2 years. You don't have the same computer you did every 2 years. All those things. Software doesn't last as long as it used to, and all those kinds of things. So we've made our systems affordable and integratable to accept a lot of different technologies. So one of the things that we did, if you had a hardwired system that was analog, the one that I described earlier, the pull cord that lights the light and dings the ding.
I remember those, yes.
Sure. But you can't get a report from all that unless you call RCare up, and then we can probably do that for you. So we have a hardwired replacement arrangement that we can replace the things, use the existing cabling system, change the devices that are in the resident room, and change out the head end equipment. And then the head end equipment in the old days was built with this big monster panel that was in the back room. It's got power supplies on it and relays and a lot of blinking lights and all that stuff. That all goes away. All of it goes away. And there is an RCare computer that it's hooked up to. So now you can, with your standard old call system, get the metrics that you want to be able to do. You can now have
you can do the call
communication
and everything.
Yes. So hardwired is not a problem. We've been able to retrofit hardwired systems. And a while back when you and I first met, you asked if RCare was a proprietary system, and I said yes. And that was the ticket that said, we got to stop being proprietary.
Talk about, so the clinical informatics person at my old organization drilled that into my head. And I remember I was talking to you at a conference. I might have been Leading Age.
It was Leading Age, yeah.
And so talk about that, proprietary versus, because that's really important for people who are looking at a call system to understand that, right?
Two very popular terms, interoperability and integratability. Interoperability often talks about computer systems. So when we're talking about software and computer systems, we were one of the first companies to create an API to be able to talk with other systems actively. So we're integrated with EMR systems, electronic medical records, so like point-click care and matrix care. So things like the data transfer for admissions, discharge, and transfer. You don't have to enter that data all the time over and over again. So and the systems now talk to each other to do that. So we did that from a hardware point of view on the integratability part, and I don't know if that's a real word, but making these systems like a fire alarm panel or a wander guard system and or an access control system to be able to communicate with your call system so that you can communicate when, okay, instead of having 4 systems that are going to buzz and beep in your brain, you've got one system to talk to when it does go off. So combining an API with integrated technology allows us to expand our capability. So not only are we just a wireless system, we manufacture our own transmitters, but Innovonics and manufactures transmitters and receivers for about 19 of our other competitors. So it's a little bit more popular and ubiquitous. There's more of them out there than there is of us. So we've integrated with those systems. So if you have an older system that uses the Innovonics transmitters, we can now use those. So again, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Reuse what you have, try to be budget conscious, but give you the communications capability that you need.
Yeah, and that really does make it possible. If you have to buy everything because you have equipment that doesn't work with your new system, then it can really be the difference between being able to get the system you need and not.
And for our elders, I mean, where they live is that's their home. And to be disruptive every couple of years, or come in there and say, well, we're going to rip this out and run some new wire, and we're just going to move you out for a few hours. We did, the consideration is to get in and out of that room as quickly as we possibly can, so that an upgrade isn't, a forklift and a sledgehammer, just a screwdriver, let's move on.
Now, what percent, and this is just you can just guess, but what percentage of like nursing homes, for example, do you think are still using systems where you can't escalate calls and you can't track things? Is there still a pretty high percentage that are using that old technology?
Yeah, a very high percent. I would say we're probably at a tone visual systems that are old relay technology are probably about 65-70% of the systems that we have out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, in the old days, they made systems that were rock solid. I mean,
yes, they were. They never failed. I do remember that.
They don't, and it's old relay technology. We call it World War II technology, but it worked, and it did. Yeah. It covered the minimum regulatory requirement, which was pull the cord, light the light, ding the ding. We've done that. We're good. That's all we need to do.
Right. But in those old systems, you had to be within visual distance to see. You had to be near the light up,
or make that ding loud enough that it could be heard all the way down the hall.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
I stayed as a resident in nursing homes a number of times, and that was one of the things that almost drove me mad was the beeping noises all night long, because I was in a community where there was an audible call system, and it was horrible.
It is. It's you can't sleep, and they talk about one of the other things that all the ills that say we've got things like call escalation that have to do with what do they call it? Fatigue, alarm fatigue. So if you answered the call the first time, you wouldn't have alarm fatigue. If you answered the call the first time, you wouldn't have call escalations. If you answered the call the first time, you wouldn't have falls that occur. So one of the things that we never measure is because we don't know what happened before the fall. We only write down what happened after the fall. Well, what happened before the fall? I pulled the pull cord and waited 14 minutes for my caregiver to arrive. When they didn't, I thought I would try it myself. No one ever wrote that down. But that's the thing that happens. If we can eliminate so much of the ills, if we understand that call bell is the voice of a resident, of an
Absolutely.
elder.
I am always going to remember that. And again, I wish I had heard that put that way years ago. So thank you. Very, very important to remember. And I think other things is having that culture in an institutional culture. There isn't, well, at least my experience has been, there's not a lot of ownership, because we've kind of taken people that want to come and care for people and just made it all about tasks. But in the right culture, where people understand their role and that it's not just about tasks, it's about caring for the whole person. Mm-hmm. And if that person is pushing their button or whatever because they want to talk, then that matters too. Excellent. And when residents are part of acknowledging team members for work well done, that also helps to support and really drive team members to want to do better. Like, what I'm doing matters. Yeah. It matters to Myron. It matters to this person, and it puts things back on a much more personal level. That's been my experience anyway.
I'm passionate about this answer the call thing. I really am. It's some people kind of admonished me on the idea that, you're yelling at customers. I said, yeah, I am, because that's why I went into this business. But yeah, I'm going to yell at my customers. Answer the call.
Well, and you're not just yelling at them. You're providing tools to help them do it, because it's from failures usually, right?
I didn't hear you. Went out.
It's system failures that is part of the problem. Not like the call light system goes down, but not having the right accountability in place and the right escalation. And that's what technology can do, is help people improve.
Yep, the technology is supposed to improve what they're able to do, not detract from it.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. So just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you that you want to say to people watching?
Wow. Wow. I wish I had a chance to think about that.
Well, you can think about it.
I mean, other than I'm like I said, I'm passionate about answer the call, and I don't want to be a wise guy about the whole thing, but I really do believe that all of those other ills that we talk about, and we talk about them ad nauseum, that the first thing we would do is, if we were to answer the call in a more timely basis, I understand it can't always occur, but we can get better at it to understand that it is the voice of the elder and that they're calling for us, and we're going to talk. We're going to do things. We're going to provide the care in a timely and responsive manner. That's what I want to accomplish.
I love it. And I love the passion behind what you do and what your organization's all about. That makes all the difference.
Hell, I get crazy about it.
I know, it's great. Your passion is amazing. So I do have one other question that that occurred to me. And that is, are there still states that require an audible call system? So I remember a number of years ago, like we had to apply for a waiver to not have the binging noise. And are there still states, and have you found any states where it's impossible to get a silent call system, or it's doable, right? To get rid of that binging noise?
In most of them. And most of them applying for a variance to eliminate the noise is something that they will do. What they oftentimes will require is that there be enough staff members that have an alternative method of communication, radios, pagers, phones, but everybody's got to have one. So it's the state of Alaska says, their code says you got to have a code system. You got to have a call system. Period.
There's
no audible, no brand, no operational. Or you can go to California and say you need to have your nurse call system seismically tested every 3 years, and You got to check a million boxes, but
Right.
it varies across from state to state.
Right.
But by and large, all the states do allow for providers to apply for a variance to reduce that noise and provide alternate methods. The number one thing I'd like is duty stations. A lot of people don't know what a duty station is, but if you pull a pull cord and there's no one standing by the call system, the nurse's station, places like soiled utility rooms and break rooms and places where you may not be in your regular work spot, it's going to make noise. It's going to buzz incessantly until someone answers the call. Makes me crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, and we know that all this noise, all this background noise, when I stayed at that nursing home, and I felt like, I mean, I really felt like my well-being was eroded just by the noise.
Yeah.
And I started doing some research on what that kind of noise does to people and how it ramps up their stress and their stress hormones, and causes headaches and causes all kinds of problems. And if there's one place we don't need more stress, it's a nursing home.
Yeah.
And so whatever we can do to get rid of that noise is just critical. And
so one of the things that CMS did was to eliminate bed exit alarms. So you get out of the bed, it goes beep, 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 beep. And so you're afraid to get out of the bed. So one of the things that we did even before that was to eliminate the beep, beep, beep. So that the notification of an elder getting out of bed goes directly to the caregiver. So instead of scaring the bejesus out of the elder, we're saying, well, Bill's getting out of bed here. Maybe we ought to go check on him.
Yep. That's amazing. And getting rid of those are restraints, right?
Yeah.
Just like being tied in your bed, that beeping noise or those chair alarms.
Psychological restraint is a terrible thing.
Absolutely. Well, Myron, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you for all that you're doing and all that RCare is doing, not just during this pandemic, all the time, because you care. You care. And that's...
I do. I'm having fun doing it too. It's rewarding. It's rewarding as hell. I can't tell you. I
love it. So how should people get in touch with you? Do they just go to your website?
Website's a great place to start. Absolutely.
Okay. I think we can put your website up on the screen. I think Meredith can do that for us. Well, maybe we can't. RCare, tell me what your website is.
RCare Inc.
RCareinc.com. All right. There we go. I might have caught Meredith off guard with that. So if you want to learn more about RCare or Myron's dance background or fishing in Western New York or the work that they're doing during the pandemic, or what else, Myron?
Oh, no. Did you see me do the flamenco at the last Leading Age convention?
No.
That was great.
Well, the next Eden conference, we're signing you up for that.
There you go.
All right, Myron, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to everybody who joined us. And I hope that you will reach out to RCare and learn more about their really awesome system. And it's ever evolving. They're at the forefront of technology. So please do reach out to them. And next week, I hope you'll join us because Deb Scovron from Circle Talk will be with us. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Myron.
Thank you. Thank you very much.